Hello, and welcome to Season 2 of the Zip Code Plays, Antaeus Theater Company's collection of original audio plays exploring the vibrant and diverse neighborhoods of Los Angeles. I'm company member Ramón de Ocampo, and I'll be your host as we travel across the Southland and through different time periods and genres exploring our community. Before we get started, we want to take a moment to acknowledge that all of the plays in this series were written, recorded, and take place on land that is the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples. So, let's get to it. In Season 1, Antaeus tasked members of its Playwrights Lab to create original plays inspired by one of LA's many unique neighborhoods. Or, you guessed it, zip codes, which we then recorded with members of our acting ensemble. Because of your enthusiastic response, listeners, we were inspired to press on, and this season, we bring you 6 all-new zip code plays. Today's story takes place in a part of Los Angeles that is pretty familiar to people outside of town. The zip code is just west of the central part of LA, after you get out of the downtown area, but before the really ritzy Beverly Hills area. And it's really known for being one of the main areas to go out on the town. The Sunset Strip is here. Also, one of the biggest, proudest, and most fun LGBTQ communities in the country is in this zip code. And I used to live there. We start the season off with playwright Sean Abley's 90069, West Hollywood. Brunch Interrupted.
Hey, can someone find out whose car that is? We need to move it for the raffle table.
Hey.
Hey. How's it look inside?
Oh, I think we're good. Do you have the list?
Yeah, hit me.
We put the cover on the pool table and set up the red dress mannequin ring toss game.
Check.
Jello shots are in the bar fridge.
Check.
And we hung the piñata, which I still think is a mistake to have inside.
Well, there's no place to hang a piñata outside.
Could we just, I don't know, set it on a table out here and let them hit it with a stick?
That is not how piñatas work.
I know, but I just don't think blindfolding a drunk guy and giving him a stick to swing around in a crowded bar is a good idea. It feels like something we're going to talk about later for all the wrong reasons.
Hey, Gary, is that your car?
Yeah.
Can you move it to the back corner so we can set up the raffle table? Thanks. It's going to be fine. Hey, Ben, there are 2 more pallets of water behind the bar. Now, once those are out, we're pretty much set up.
What about safety goggles, just in case? I bet if we just, casually wear them and act like they're cool, everybody will put them on.
Joe, my love, my gay, homosexual husband. Red Dress Party has been going on for over a decade, and there's never been a serious injury.
Except the lawn darts
Except the lawn darts
year.
Yes, I know. But I think we can both agree no one would have predicted Julienne Potatoes would get drunk enough to play overhand. Hey, everybody, can I get your attention? Thank you all for your hard work. I think we're good out here. Be back at noon. Red dress on. And be ready to make a shitload of money for the Pediatric AIDS Foundation.
We have time for brunch, I think.
Where?
Joey's. We can walk.
My bag's inside. One sec.
Is there a manager?
You leave anything in there?
Nope, just the dresses.
Excuse me, is the manager out here somewhere?
No, he's inside.
Oh, okay, thanks.
The bar's not technically open yet. We're just decorating for an event later.
Is that the manager? That African-American gentleman coming out of the bar?
No, that's my husband, and he's black.
I see that. I have eyes.
I meant black is the preferred term.
A preferred term for what?
Your race.
I turned my back for a second. There needs to be a law that white people can't talk about race unless there's a black person in the room.
I'm not here to talk about race. I'm here to talk to someone about that music. I don't understand why, if the bar's closed, the music is playing so loud. I hear it in my house.
Oh, well, where do you live?
Right there. We just moved in a month ago, and we hear the noise from that bar constantly.
That's not noise. That's dance music.
Well, I've already called the city twice. No help.
Well, you just moved here, so you probably don't know, but it's actually a city ordinance in West Hollywood that gay bars have to play dance music whenever gay people are within 100 feet.
Ha ha ha. It's not even open. And regardless, nobody should be blasting music at 10 a.m. on Sunday.
You've obviously never lived next to a black church.
This isn't a church. I'm gonna talk some sense into that manager.
No, you're not. He's busy.
And if that doesn't work, I'm calling the cops. Excuse me. Get out of my way.
Ma'am, go home.
You can't block me.
Brad's busy. He doesn't need some old, straight, white lady colonizer bothering him just because she's been forced to listen to music.
Colonizer? What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
You moved kitty corner from a gay bar in a gay city. That's just how it goes.
Well, that's not just how it goes. I don't care if it's a gay city or not. I live here and I have the right to peace and quiet in my own home.
Look, go back to your house, close all the windows, and if you can still hear the music, I would suggest sticking your head up your ass.
Joe.
Then, if you can still hear it, at least you'll suffocate.
What?
Now, honey, what did we say about wishing death upon our enemies?
I am just so fucking sick of straight people chipping away at West Hollywood just because they can afford to move here. You didn't buy a cone of silence with your house, you old bat, so take your Gladys Crevice bullshit and pound sand.
Joe.
Ooh, so now you're clever with the TV references, Mr. Gay Guy.
Did you know that the gay church had to move out of WeHo because the rents have been jacked up so high?
Well, that's not my fault.
Straight people come in, you buy property and tear it down and rebuild, and then all the property values go up, and so do the rents. And then gay people have to leave, because on average they make less than straight people, and then the gay businesses and the legacy businesses are forced out. And now there's some dumb chain restaurant where the dildo store used to be. That shouldn't be. We shouldn't have to leave WeHo to buy a dildo.
You can buy them online.
That's not the point.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus in heaven.
And now you're coming for the neighborhood gay bar.
I don't care if it's a gay bar. It's a noisy bar.
Well, I care if it's a gay bar. I care. Anytime we build something of our own out of nothing, straight people see how great it is, and eventually they take it away.
That's nonsense.
The Castro? E-Entertainment Network? RuPaul? Hello? All the gay things. And what's left, if we're lucky, are the gay bars. And you know why gay bars are important?
$5 says he's going to tell me why gay bars are important.
Gay bars are important because men needed a place to go where they could be themselves and not get murdered.
Okay, we're done here.
They are not for
Let's
your
go, come on.
they are not for your bridal showers. They are not so you can have a safe place to dance. They're for our protection. And yes, music is a part of that. And I don't want to have to explain joy to you. When a straight woman is in a gay bar, she is a guest, and that's provisionally.
Joe, we're done. Stop.
I'm doing civil rights.
Go up to the corner and I'll meet you there.
Fine. It was nice to meet you. Have a terrible day.
Don't worry, I am.
I'll meet you at Joey's.
Okay. I apologize. What's your name, ma'am?
I'm not a ma'am. Ruby.
I'm Moses, and that one-man angry mob was my husband, Joe. I apologize for his tone, but he speaks the truth. Maybe think about that before you rack up those complaints to the city council.
What's happening here? What's all the decorations? Am I in for some block party all day?
Red dress party. Pediatric AIDS fundraiser.
Oh.
Yeah, kids with AIDS, so.
And everyone wears red dresses?
Yep.
You and the angry one?
Floor length and sleeveless, with a medium heel, because it's daytime.
Obviously.
We raise about $5,000 every year, so, if you call the city and get us shut down, sorry, kids with AIDS.
I gotcha. I'm not a monster.
You're wearing a jogging visor and mismatching greens. You might as well be Godzilla.
Ooh, is that tea? I learned that on Drag Race. No tea or shade.
Uh-huh. You're welcome. I gotta run. We're late for brunch.
Oh, where's good brunch? I haven't really investigated the restaurants in the area yet.
They don't have brunch on Monster Island?
Okay.
We like Joey's. It's not amazing, but it's there.
Gotcha.
Have a good one.
You too. Nice meeting you.
I'll have the turkey omelet, actual turkey, not turkey sausage, with cheddar and salsa, home fries, sourdough, side of bacon. Oh, here he is. Over here. And he'll have the steak and eggs, well done and over medium. Home fries, sourdough, water and coffee for both of us. Thanks.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me, miss. Sorry, can I get... And she's gone.
I ordered for you.
Oh, well done on the steak, please.
I told her.
Who's her? And what happened to Gina?
Wasn't anything open in her section, so I took first available. She seems real green.
Uh-huh. And how's the queer Avenger?
Oh, thank you. He'll be fine after he has some of this coffee. Thank you. Is there any cream left in that?
Yep, here.
Thanks. As per Joey's established pattern of conduct, the coffee is perfectly marginal.
Are we not going to talk about what just happened?
You know that shit drives me insane.
No. Well, thankfully you didn't weaken your position by letting on how angry you were.
It just drives me crazy, the entitlement of people like that.
Well, white people do like their entitlement.
It doesn't help the city council is selling off the city to the highest bidder. They're going to leave us with nothing. Gay space is evaporating, and gargoyles like whatever her name is...
Ruby.
Ugh, sounds like a diner waitress.
I smoothed that over for you, by the way. I mean, I know we love our righteous indignation, but every time she calls the city, Gold Coast gets the brunt of that. I think she might be wooed to WeHo.
Her?
Well, she enjoyed being insulted by a queer black man, and honestly, it wasn't even my best material. Firmly bus and truck gay shade circa 1997.
Well, I'm glad you smoothed it over, I guess, but you didn't really back me up back there.
What do you mean? Of course I did.
No, not really. I mean, you sort of stepped in, but you didn't really, further my case.
Well, did it occur to you that maybe I don't take it as seriously as you do?
You don't take straight colonizing of West Hollywood seriously?
Straight colonizing just means more white people. It's not any better or worse than the day before.
That's not true. Are you kidding me?
If you're going to talk colonizing, you might want to start with the fact that West Hollywood wasn't empty when the gays showed up in their covered wagons. There was a pretty big Russian community here, as I recall.
Okay, fair point. But still...
But still what?
You let her off the hook. At the expense of us. We shouldn't have to cater to some old straight lady. I mean, at least have my back.
Oh, boy.
What?
We were so close to having a nice brunch, like this close.
What?
Do you truly not understand why I smoothed it over with Lady Godzilla?
Lady what?
It's a thing we did. Do you really not know?
I mean, for the bar, obviously.
White women are the most... No, never mind.
What?
No, you know what? I'm not going to edit myself this time. Look, white women are dangerous for black men. Full stop.
Well, yes, obviously, I understand that, but her?
All of them. There is not a white woman in the world that doesn't have the power to weaponize their whiteness.
Well, sure, but she was complaining about the bar.
Fact. The minute I saw her talking to you, I knew she was there to cause trouble, and that pissed me off. Also fact. If I joined you in going all bitch cakes on her ass, she would have felt more threatened and maybe actually called the police. And the first words out of her mouth would have been, "A black man is threatening me."
I get it.
Do you? Every time I'm face to face with a white woman, I become the approachable black man who talks white so I can be a credit to my race in her eyes and get out of there alive. That happens to me on the daily, hourly. And I don't think you really understand what that adds up to for a black man.
Of course I do. I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking it through. Oh, perfect. That was really quick. Kitchen must be banging it out today.
Oh, thanks, sweetheart. Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry, but I can tell this steak is medium and I really want it well done. Could you ask them to throw it on the grill for another minute for me? I'd really appreciate it. And she's gone. Was that hostile silence or was that just I'm busy silence?
I mean, I know it's terrible for you. You know I know it's terrible. It's just, with all this happening in the city...
The city. The one you're so hot to protect against white trauma that it blinds you to what your husband goes through, has bigger problems than a lack of dildos.
Like?
Like a city built on the bedrock systemic racism of white gay men. And lack of tops. But mostly the first one.
I feel like you're about to put me into one of those categories. And considering what happened at Frank's birthday party last night...
Why don't we ever hang out at Davon's house? Or do dinner at Lakeisha and Lakeisha's condo?
What do you mean?
Why don't we ever go over to their places?
I don't know. They always come over to ours.
Why do they always have to come over to our place?
Well, they don't have to, but it's nice here. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. West Hollywood is nice, and I want it to stay that way. And I like being a good host. We like being good hosts. And Davon and the Lakeisha are always raving about our cooking and the view from our roof. Lakeisha with a K is obsessed with how we redid The Office BTW. I guess I never thought about it. I thought we were being generous to our friends.
Exactly. You never thought about it. You thought you were doing a charitable act for our black friends.
I didn't say charity.
You look at all of this like it's some gay paradise that only straight people can ruin. But it's not 1 ounce safer for black gay people than it is on the other side of La Brea. I mean, how many black faces do you see at this restaurant that aren't working here?
Honey, you know I'm trying, don't you? I'm sorry if I haven't lived up to, my responsibilities, but I'm really trying. I understand you're angry, but is it really about me? I mean, do you seriously think that I don't...
What I think is you're limited by your own experience. Did you never even consider that I might like to hang out in a black neighborhood every once in a while? The Lakeishai live in Baldwin Hills, and they'd love to have us over.
Well, then why don't they ask us over?
Because they think you won't want to go.
Oh.
That looks great, thank you. Could you send the busboy over for more coffee when you get us? And she's gone. That girl's like vapor. Eat your omelet before it gets cold.
I don't think I'm hungry anymore. Do our friends think I'm an asshole?
Eat your eggs. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, even for racists.
How's your steak?
I'm looking for a couple, there they are, thanks.
You gotta be shitting me.
That bad?
Hello, new friends?
No.
Oh, stop.
No, You cannot invade gay brunch. This is our holy land.
I'm not going to invade, I'm just a tourist. That all looks delicious.
It sure does, and I'd love to eat it at some point.
So, I was thinking about our conversation earlier, and while I still think the bar is too loud, I also think it's terrible that gays are getting pushed out. So, I got you this.
Oh, my God.
Oh!
I know. It's a pretty good one.
What are you doing? Take that off the table.
You mentioned the dildo stores are being closed, and I remembered my daughter won one of these at her friend's shower a couple months ago. So I thought this might be a good peace offering.
You re-gifted me a dildo?
It's still in the package. My gift to you.
Why?
Well, I felt bad that you couldn't buy them in the neighborhood anymore. And quite frankly, you seem like you could use one.
Oh my God, someone kill me.
I have to say, you definitely should be flattered she thinks you can handle the size of this thing.
Where's that stray bullet I ordered?
That's just the appetizer. The main course.
Don't!
You know, if you're going to be in red dresses all day and night, I figured you could use this one.
Wow. That's actually really beautiful.
Yeah. I don't think I have any shoes in your size. Don't say it. But this was my daughter's, and she's...
Rubenesque.
I don't know what that means, but if it means plus size, then yes. She works in the theater. She travels with those big Broadway tours.
Actor?
Props, actually. She's with Hamilton. Have you heard of this thing? It's the story of Alexander Hamilton, a musical. But they do a lot of raps, and it has all sorts of people in it.
All sorts of people. Interesting.
Yeah, I loved it. It's actually her house I'm living in the mother-in-law bungalow out back. She's on the road all the time, so she wanted someone in the house full time, so she imported Mom.
From?
Oklahoma. Tulsa.
Tulsa. Interesting city.
Oh, it's fine.
To West Hollywood.
I know. Talk about homesteading.
Well, welcome to West Hollywood.
Thank you. I called Mel after we talked, and she was livid about what I'd done, and she demanded I make a big donation to your charity party. You know, I meet all her friends when she comes through town, and so many of them are really gay.
Really gay? On a Broadway tour?
Impossible.
She's what she likes to call a queen's familiar. All the boys love Melissa. Anyway, I did feel bad, and so I wanted to bring this red dress by in case somebody needed it. And make a donation to the cause.
No.
What? What do you mean, no?
I mean, no. I'm not going to take your money or your dress.
Why not?
Because you're going to put on that red dress and a medium heel, and you're going to bring that money and make the donation yourself. Red dress party starts at noon, goes on until 6 p.m., and after that, it's just a general beer bust.
Yeah, but I thought you said you wanted gay spaces to be gay spaces and straight women were provisional guests.
I'm inviting you. You will be my guest. And it's going to cost more than that insultingly small wad of money.
Noted.
Feel free to invite any of the other residents of Monster Island.
I do hear that Mothra enjoys a drink or two on the weekends.
I don't understand that.
It's a thing we're doing. It's called shade.
Okay, off with you before someone drops a house on you too. Our eggs are getting cold.
And I need to steam this dress. And enjoy your breakfast. I'll see you at the party. Have a terrible day.
What just happened?
Same shit, different white lady. But I do give her points for trying. This dildo is actually really expensive.
Could you please put that in your bag?
You don't want to open it?
Here? Only if you're going to beat me to death with it immediately after.
Oh, boo, no fun.
Do Davon and the Lakeishai think I'm racist?
You're going to have to ask them that.
Okay. That feels... I don't know, I can't find the word.
What I can tell you is they will all be very open to having the conversation.
Okay.
Eat your eggs. And I'm going to enjoy my medium well steak.
You've been listening to 90069, West Hollywood. Brunch Interrupted. Written by Sean Abley. Directed by Michael A. Shepperd. Starring Bill Brochtrup as Joe, Angie Byrd as Ruby, and Parnell Damone Marcano as Moses. Taylor Ann Cullen is our production stage manager. Jeff Gardner is our extraordinary audio producer, sound designer, and Foley artist. Alan Mandel created our original music, and our sound editor is Diego Tapia. The Zip Code Play series is generously sponsored in part by the Michael J. Connell Foundation. Antaeus Theater Company is an actor-driven ensemble that explores timely and timeless work, grounded in our passion for the classics. Our artistic directors are Bill Brochtrup and Katie Swink. Anna Rose O'Halloran is our executive director. Nicole Samsel is our tireless director of operations, with additional production support by Jade Mujias. For more information about the Zip Code Plays, or to support Antaeus, please visit our website at zipcodeplays.info. While there, check out the original illustrated maps of each of our zip codes created by artist Cynthia Jaquette. Really cool. You can also visit highlights of each neighborhood in person or virtually by taking the Zip Code Plays tour. If you enjoyed this production, please leave us a rating or review. It really helps new listeners find us. If you're looking for more great theater in LA, check out our colleagues at the Los Angeles LGBT Center. They produce theater, live performances, and host exhibitions that showcase and celebrate the experiences of the diverse LGBT community. Next up...
All right, good job, guys. That was amazing. Yeah, that was Brunch Interrupted by Sean Abley. And here we are with our other panelists. Again, my name is Spencer Carney. Couple quick things before we begin our discussion. If you had questions, just a little reminder, if you have questions, you can add them in the Q&A chat at the bottom. And if you have any more questions about the play or about what we're about to discuss, we will make sure to get those by the end of our session here today. Yes, okay, so real quick, a quick statement about the credited director, Michael Shepperd. Simply that nobody at Antaeus knew anything about what has been reported about him in the local press until after our project was wrapped, and nobody on this panel has any further information to offer at this time. And so we will focus on the people that are here. All right, so now to begin our academic little salon about the play that we just watched. For those of you who are watching this and who aren't familiar, a salon has a long historical tradition. You know, you might imagine a sophisticated French salon where, you know, a matriarch or a scholar of some kind would invite them to their estate, a group of friends to their estate home to have academic discussions and foster, you know, a culture of learning. Before I wanted to add a little framework. So by the way, if you don't know what glendaleOUT is, glendaleOUT is a queer advocacy organization located here in Glendale, California, same location as the Antaeus Theater, by the way. And what we are working towards is including the queer community into the greater narrative that is Glendale. So we have a hashtag queering Glendale, which is the framework for our Jewel City Pride 2021 event, our sort of inaugural big event that we're doing, a hybrid event. Wanted to do a full in-person Pride Festival, but the pandemic got in the way of that, which coincidentally is what brought up these zip code plays that you have now just discovered and enjoyed. We're all trying to figure out ways that we can safely have community, create new spaces, and create new content and connect with each other. So I'm going to be using the word queering as a verb and the word queer. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with those terms, you might, have some ideas in your head about what that may mean to you, depending on where you are coming from with that. It is a reclaimed word by the community and by scholars, specifically from the 80s and 90s. And simply what it means is to examine things critically, society, it could be literature, like we're going to do in this case, our community, really any construct of any kind from a non-heteronormative perspective. And queer theorists have different ideas about, does that mean specifically the heteronormative in a heterosexual sense? But, over time, as the idea of what it means to be queer has evolved, that has also now included the sort of the structures that are in place in general in society, our government, our culture, our gender norms, our identities, how we interconnect with each other, how we perceive each other, the perception of gender and sexuality, and how that is on a spectrum and included throughout our lives. All right, so now we have with us Sean Abley, the writer of the playwright, I should say, of Brunch Interrupted, and we are also joined by Bill and Parnell, who were the two leads. We aren't joined with by Anne, who played the what shall we call her, the colonizing white lady in the play. She unfortunately wasn't able to make it today, but I wanted to first give my first question to Sean and sort of lay this framework for the setting of the play. We are at the Gold Coast Bar, which is a real place in West Hollywood, located on Santa Monica Boulevard and La Jolla Avenue. And we also hear about this event called a red dress party, but we don't get to attend it ourselves in the play. So if you could just tell us your connection to what inspired you to sort of choose this particular bar, this particular location, and this event, and if you could give us a little context of what that event is.
Sure. I lived in West Hollywood for a solid decade when I first moved from Chicago. And the Gold Coast was actually one of the very first bars I ever walked into in West Hollywood. So for as long as I've lived here, I've been connected to that bar. And through whatever reasons, but I think both pandemic and just sort of the economy, I knew when it came time to write this piece that Gold Coast was probably on the way out. And so I wanted to do my part to sort of preserve it in amber, with my words, which is something we can do with theater. You can put it into a play and it lives forever. And the reason, again, pandemic is part of it, but one of the reasons why they couldn't make a deal to keep the space was the economics of what is happening to West Hollywood, which is gentrification, basically. It's the time, tale as old as time. There's a neighborhood that may not be so great. The gays move in, they buff it to a high shine, and then the straight people are like, that's really great. We'll take that, please. And that, to an extent, has been happening in West Hollywood. And I think that we need to examine that as a community and protect that when we can. And so that was, when asked to write about a place, that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, So it was closed in 2019 because of the pandemic, and you wrote this play in 2021, right?
It closed sometime in 2020. It's funny because I say last year, and I actually mean 2019, but it was actually 20, because we sort of take that year out of our experience. It did close, I believe, for good in 2020, and I wrote this at the beginning of 2021. Yeah.
Got you. Have you gotten to attend a red dress party?
I have. They're a lot of fun. So it's basically how it's described in the play, at least the one at the Gold Coast. Red dresses. They cordon off the parking lot in the back of the bar, so that becomes part of the bar for the day. And yeah, it's just a ton of fun. And I'm not sure the genesis of it. I know I've done AIDS Life Cycle 6 times in the past, and they have what they call a red dress day, which is the day that everybody wears red, so it will look like a red ribbon sort of snaking along the California coast when everybody's riding their bikes. It may be connected to that. I honestly don't know.
It's tragic and romantic.
Yeah,
so actually, it was in I believe New York City. A couple, an older gay couple of a certain age, I should say. They were both diagnosed with HIV in the heat of the AIDS crisis. And so they were attending a lot of funerals in black tuxedos. And so as sort of a celebration of life, they had made a promise to each other that at their own funerals, either one of them would wear a red dress. And so they ended up instead of waiting for their funerals, they were like, why don't we just have a giant party and raise money for the AIDS crisis? And so red dress parties have actually permeated throughout the years through the United States in different locations, like Portland, Oregon, and like Washington, DC has one, and Los Angeles did have one hosted at the Gold Coast Bar for years. And so who knows what community will host the next red dress party? Maybe Glendale, we don't know yet. Regardless of gender, you wear a red dress, and the contributing the charity organization that the cover charge would go towards is a variety of. It has evolved. It was originally just for AIDS and HIV, but it's also been for like the Human Rights Campaign and other LGBTQIA plus advocacy programs. Parnell or Bill, have you guys gotten to attend a red dress party?
I have not, and thank you for that history, because I've heard of them, but I didn't know how they got started. I do have a red dress in the closet, so who knows?
Hey, you're ready to go.
Well, you're wearing red now.
I'm wearing red now.
You look very good.
Yeah.
It suits you. No, I have not. I have not had the opportunity.
And so that's sort of the setting of this comedy, even though we are talking about very serious intersectional issues related to safe spaces, sexuality, entrenched history in particular locations that people have lived for many years with legacy businesses that have now coalesced into a culture. And of course, over time, other people have tried to figure out, okay, well, we talk about in GlenDaleOUT all the time, about should we outsource our gay, or do we find our gayness and queerness here where we are? And so, but I digress. We'll talk more about that later. What I want to talk about is specifically the genre you chose, Sean, and Parnell and Bill, how you handled this genre of comedy, how comedy facilitates these intersectional conversations to take place. Because, we live in if you look at Hollywood, if you look at a lot of the plays that are written, they tend to gravitate towards comedy to talk about at least queer issues. You see lots of queer comedies come out where we talk about this stuff, coming out stories often. Props that this isn't a coming out story. This is definitely much beyond that. But yeah, how did you come to this as the choice, Sean?
There's a rich history of gay theater, and I absolutely feel like the heavy drama stuff has its place. I was doing theater in high school, and I came of age, as AIDS was being discovered, and we knew learning more and more about it, and theater sort of reacted to it. So I entered theater with things like Adam and the Experts and As Is and Normal Hearts and the AIDS show and things like that. And at the time, those were, very educational. And then we sort of found our humor in it at some point. And that has always been my, I don't know, I as often as I've tried to write a serious play, the humor comes in. And I just think for me, every playwright has their sort of toolbox, and the most effective tools they can use. For me, it's comedy. And so I wanted to lean into my strengths. I also think that, there's a time and place for our act up, emotions, towing the line, you will listen to us. And then there's times where it's like the soft end or the small end of the wedge in first, right? So you sort of like get it in there, get people on board, and then, which is, I was very conscious with this play because I started out fairly light, and then at the end where it's really like Moses doesn't let Joe off the hook. Like it's, he has to sit with his, inherent racism. And I figured to get to that point, I needed to sort of get people on board first. So I hope that explains it.
Yeah. I'm gonna shift to Parnell and Bill. So you handled this. I noticed when as you're listening, you can tell the sort of shift in tone that you take with your voices when you sort of enter, when you're sort of throwing shade at this lady, and then when you shift to having like a more serious conversation with each other in your relationship. How did you sort of like, in preparing for the role, take on that tact? Was it just implicit, you understood, or did you have to really like find the compassion for your partner who, I'm thinking of Parnell in this situation, compassion for, Bill's character Joe in, having to reckon with his white fragility and reckon with his sort of like misguided or misplaced, we should say, territorialness in the situation?
It was an easy place for me because, I'm quiet as a kept. I have white friends, and and this is a conversation that I have had several times, over the years. It's that our entire culture has gotten the impression of white supremacy. Everything around us is all about, white is the default. And so there's a lot of times when we talk about white people being racist or whatever, it's not the Klan rally, I hate niggers type of thing that we're talking about. It is that slight bias that kind of thinks that the way white people do things is the only way they should ever be done, as opposed to making room for, well, you know what, there are other cultures that have ways of doing that are just as valid and just as important and just as necessary for you to be aware of. And so I think with Moses and Joe having that conversation, he's like, no, I don't think you're a racist in the sense of, MAGA wearing storm the Capitol type, but there you could kind of open your mind to the possibility of, hey, think of what your partner, your husband, how he experiences life and how that might be different for you. And I know every Black man I know knows that don't scare the white people voice. It's like, okay, take a little, hey, Ann, take a little of that bass out your voice so the white people don't get threatened or, so that is a kind of thing that even, I'm a nice guy, but I even walk down the street like, okay, don't walk too close up to behind the white woman so she won't think you're trying to attack her, make your presence known so you don't just pass by and she's like, and it's just my own safety sometimes, because our country does have a history of Black men being killed just for the perception that they were threatening to white women. So I think that's such an important conversation for that couple to have, and him like, I thought about it, but I guess I hadn't thought about it to that depth. Bill?
Well, Sean's writing is really beautiful. When we put out a call to playwrights in the Playwrights Lab asking for ideas for plays about different zip codes, this really struck me, and I thought it was a really interesting take on West Hollywood. I felt, as an actor, I thought it was really important that that Parnell and I very quickly establish that these guys are really good together and that they really do love each other, and that this relationship is a good relationship based in a lot of good things. And there was not much time to do that, so I wanted to grab that right at the beginning and have the conflict come after that. And I felt that Sean's dialogue was so truthful to the way I talk. There's a clip and a pace and a humor that I think a lot of gay people have, not all maybe, but I think a lot do. So I thought the jokes were really good, and the references were all correct. And again, a shout out to Angie Byrd, who I'm told is in the audience here, who is plays Ruby and is you heard she's stellar. So it was very easy to go up against her and want to have this clash. It was fun. I found it fun to sort of go off on her, which is something that it was great fun. And I adore that line, "I'm doing civil rights," which shows just how like the heart can be sometimes in the right place and the impact is a little messed up.
We have the. Oh, please.
I was just gonna say, Bill's character is me. Like Bill's character is me taking me to task. Like I'm not in an interracial relationship, but I've known Parnell for almost a decade. I have Black friends, and I consider myself an ally and consider myself like doing the work. But I frequently fall short of that and need a lesson. And so I figured if I wrote it from my truth and, was not afraid to put myself out there as that person, it would be more effective.
Let's talk about your truth. So we have the benefit of, this cast being authentically identifying with their characters. Sean, you described to me that you identify as non-binary. But you know what? I'm gonna let you guys tell us. I'd rather you guys tell us, because I want to, the question being, did you guys feel this pressure to authentically represent the whole, the community that you are playing in this show, and when you were writing it, Sean, like, did you feel this pressure to get it sort of right in a way? Like you just mentioned just now that you were, you're sort of, dipping into issues that you have sort of by osmosis felt from your Black friends, and you are part of the queer community, and so you're also dealing with things that you've experienced in the queer community with this. Did you feel any sort of pressure as you're going through this process with representing this in some sort of accurate way?
I didn't feel pressure. I felt responsibility. To me, it's not pressure. It's my job, honestly. So any moment that I could make that happen, I did. And to Bill's credit, being the artistic director of the company, he and I had conversations about casting a director, and I wrote it with his voice in mind, and because I wanted a queer artist from Antaeus to be in this piece. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting you put it like pressure, because I feel like I've turned the corner, and it's less like the community's pressure, just like, okay, I got, I have the job description. And now it's my duty, that's the word I'm looking for, duty to do it.
You said duty. I'm sorry. I know, I'm silly. For me, this was, I made the decision, and I've told Bill this before, so I'm going to blow you up again, Bill, that watching him on television as a young adult was an inspiration for me to be an openly gay actor, especially at a time when there were not a lot of Black openly gay actors. So I really was like, you know what? I want to be that for people coming behind me, that they can see me on stage or on television or on the movie screen, and go like, oh, that guy's like me. That's an example of what is possible, in this country, in this world. And, given the option of, hiding behind a beard as, not the face of heroin, but a woman.
How dare you? How dare you?
I love your beard, Sean. And that was like a little bit of pressure. Was like, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So this is, as my t-shirt, you can't see it. My t-shirt my slogan is, it's not my job to make you comfortable with my life. And so that is the whole thing of claiming my identity for me, for my comfort, and what makes me shine in my full capacity as a human being, so that other people can see that. And even if they're not gay, but just recognize, oh, this is a person who is fully aware of themselves and fully loving themselves. You know, even my flaws, you know, there are a couple, there are only a couple that that I have to look at and just embrace everything that makes me me, and let that example go like, okay, don't do that thing that I did because that was horrible, but you know, live your real life. And so that was my thing. And I feel like with Sean's writing was so easy to step into Moses, you know, because it was just kind of like you laid out, this is who Moses is. And this is, you know, kind of his thinking. So it was really easy to put that jacket on and become him, because you really got that.
Well, and you helped me alter the jacket to you and Michael, the director. Like you were so gracious and so generous, as were a couple other playwrights from our playwrights lab who I like humbly offered this play to get some feedback. And, you know, we're in the era of like, you don't want to ask people to do the emotional labor, you need to do the research yourself, but there comes a point where you actually have to go to the source. And the sources were incredibly generous to help me with this, because this is the first time I've written about race. And so thank you, Parnell, for putting on that jacket and like taking it into the back a little bit, making it fit better.
So Bill, did you have anything to add?
Well, I just think that it's important. You know, at Antaeus, we're always looking for great actors. We want great acting, of course, excellence. But it's also important to find authentic voices to tell the stories that we're telling. And so in all of the zip code plays, and of course in every play that we do, we look for this. And these zip code plays that are set in different areas of Los Angeles, finding authentic voices to speak about those experiences is something that we have put a big priority on. And so for this play, as I said, it's like when I read this, and as artistic director, I don't act in all the plays sometimes. I don't like to do that. But when I read this, I thought, well, I do kind of know about this one. So it spoke to me. And I think that kind of authenticity is something that's important. But I don't think that anybody can represent the gay community. You know, this is too much for one person to take on. Obviously, I mean, I've been an openly gay actor for a long time, and I think there was earlier on a feeling like, because there were so few actors who were gay and open about it, that people felt they had a responsibility to represent, something. And not just in gays. I was thinking about Margaret Cho had a show on ABC that, before any other women did like that, her own sitcom. And I think there was great pressure put upon her to, I don't know her, but I feel there was great pressure put on her to represent all the Asian community. And that is not a fair thing to do to anybody. And I think all we can do is represent truthful portrayals of the characters that we're playing. And the truer we are in those, truer we are to the characters that we're playing, and the more true and personal we bring our work, the more universal it becomes. That's the funny magic of the theater.
So I want to pose this question to you guys, because now we've just established, about authentic representation, how that's what we've achieved in this project and stuff. And so, to sort of badly quote Paulo Freire, who wrote The Theater of the Oppressed, when a minority who is significantly oppressed over a large period of time, sometimes in order to overcome it, they may take on the qualities of their oppressors. And so whenever we are sort of, attacking these, or like encroaching upon space that like is a part of our deep-seated beliefs about our culture and who we are, we sort of, it's knives out. We may not see the best face of that person, the most palatable version of that person, or the most, socially appropriate version of that person. So where are people's, how do we include allies into this conversation? How does Angie Byrd, and her character kind of like fit into this? Who is allowed to have these conversations about these things?
Good question.
I think something that's been interesting, I'm just going to just say, over the course of all the zip code plays, because we now have 12 plays, free for download, wherever you get your podcast. But when you listen to them all together, you can see threads that are similar to all these neighborhoods. And so questions of whose land is this? Questions of who got here first? Questions of taking up space. While we didn't ask for that to be an overriding topic in the plays, we just asked the playwrights to write about what they wanted to write about. When you put it all together like a quilt, you start to see a pattern. And this is obviously a thing that's on the minds of all of us in Los Angeles and Glendale.
It's an interesting question, I think, because I know that I'll just talk as from an art point of view, right? Like I've said this before, I think every great shift in society comes with art, and art is oftentimes responsible for it. So I think we're at a moment now when that can be part of what we're doing. And I think that for me, the key is to create art in my undiluted true voice. Like, I don't care if straight people see my art. I don't care if people that aren't queer see my art. It is important to me to take my truth and like weave it into, you know, the spoken word and performances and things like that. It's almost like the old recovery thing. It's not recruitment, it's attraction. So I feel like if I put this out there, and this isn't like the most queer thing I've written, but just in general, if I put out my truth, people, I would hope, if they're open, will be drawn to truth. They may not be drawn to the subject matter. They may not be drawn to how the delivery mechanism, but they'll be drawn to truth. And so I think in this time when allies are so important, we need to remember that we are not like asking, we're not begging, we're not even demanding, we are expecting them to be part of this. So I don't know, we just do what we do and they have to fucking get on the train. Quite honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely a conversation that we all need to have. I mean, we've seen with all the controversy over critical race theory, you know, and that states are just like, oh, we don't want that taught. I'm like, okay, here's the thing. Well, we just had Juneteenth made a national holiday. So it's kind of like, so on the one hand, we want to celebrate that white people gave Black people freedom, but we don't want to talk about slavery and Jim Crow and the white domestic terrorism that Black people have had to deal with since slavery up till now, because it makes people feel bad. I'm like, well, how do you think it feels to be the object of it? How do you think I feel, my mother felt, my grandparents have felt? So it's like, until America has these conversations, we will never get over the conflict. It's like slavery ended, and several people said slavery ended and nobody got any therapy for it. It was like, okay, you're free, go do stuff. It's okay, you freed them, go do stuff. But nobody ever took time to actually go like, okay, how do we heal this? You know, it was kind of like we had Reconstruction and then the North just kind of let the South go back to willy-nilly to treat the Black people bad again, kicked them all out of Congress. And instead of staying there and going like, no, we're gonna stay and make sure that this sticks. And now that we are in 2021 and Black people are still going, well, when are we ever going to get these reparations? Where the 40 acres and a mule that were promised if we fought in this Civil War never came. So like, and it's just the history of this country, you know, the Native Americans, we're only going to live on this part. Oh, there's something on this land that we want. So now we're going to move you. And it keeps being this conversation where people of color keep being marginalized while, and this is not a white bashing thing, it's just history, what happened. You know, take more and then go like, well, why are you mad at me for something that my ancestors did? It's like, well, because they didn't pay the debt. And now I'm looking at you to say, okay, well, are you going to pay the debt? If you really feel bad about this, then some point this country is going to have to say, you know what? You're absolutely right. You all were owed this because you were promised this if you did that. So we're going to have to take it. And it doesn't have to be an individual check to every Black person in the country. But there are things, we know the disparity that is going on in people of color communities. We know that. And so there are things that could be done. You know, we know how the farmers didn't get loans that they were done. We know how people of color often aren't shown homes in certain neighborhoods where they're steered over to. We don't want you to live over there. We're going to stay. We know that happens. So at some point as a country, we're going to have to address that and have those conversations. A lot of times when I say things, when I'm talking in mixed company, and sometimes people are like, oh, I can't believe you said that in front of those white people. Like, why not? That's who needs to hear it. If they don't hear how we really feel, and if we always smile and pretend like everything is okay, then we never get past the problem. So that's, again, what is important about Moses and Joe having this conversation. Moses going like, you know what? I'm not going to edit myself again, because you're never going to learn what I'm feeling if I keep being nice and placating you so you don't feel bad about the white supremacy that we have. And I know I'm running along. It's the last thing I'm going to say.
No, I love it. That was another question I had later, so I'm glad we're getting to it now.
I'm a huge fan of Jane Elliott because she is a no bullshit woman. And in one of her seminars where she asked all the white people that if you want to trade places with the way Black people are treated in this country, stand up. Like, nobody's standing. Maybe let me repeat the question. If you want to trade places with Black people, stand up. None of you are standing, which means you know what's going on and you know you don't want it for yourself. So why are you okay with letting it happen to someone else? And that is a thing that can be interpreted. So men can look at that with women. Would you want to trade place with the way women are treated? No, then don't let women be treated like that. You want to trade places with the way trans people are treated in this country? No, then treat trans people better. That is that interconnected humanness, which I think is our default, to be generous and loving and caring for one another, but we let these messages of otherness get in here and betray what's in here. So when we have those conversations, when Bill and I talk, or Shauna and I talk, or Spencer, now that we're new friends, we have these conversations, we can talk, you know what? I want to have a heart-to-heart with you because I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to be my best self. So even if it makes me feel like, ooh, you're attacking me, realize, like, you know what? I have to look at what part I may be playing. Am I really being the ally that I imagine myself being? And if I'm not, then I got to do the work. As uncomfortable as it may be, as painful as it may be, the end result is you can look at me and go like, he is really at least making the effort.
That's very beautifully said. You mentioned how the government made Juneteenth a federal holiday. And so we even mentioned how the city council of West Hollywood in this play is sort of failing the legacy communities and not taking their part of the responsibility of maintaining a gigantic segment of the culture that has made them so they benefited from. And so what role might have we, and you can speak as broadly, you can put your queer eye on Glendale here, what sort of role does our government in the community, what needs to happen here where we can see an adequate change, reverberated?
It's interesting. Parnell, you talked about having the conversations that we need to have the conversations, and I agree. But part of me also thinks, do we really want to have conversations? Because that sort of implies that I care about what you think. And, and I don't when it comes to queer things. I don't care what straight people have to think about it. Here's what I want and need. And so I wonder if there's, we want to have, we don't want to get too befriending our captors, but we do want to be civil. So, and politics is a give and take. So, but I think I don't know. I just feel like we're not sticking to our guns these days as far as what the party that I'm assuming represents the four of us on this screen is doing for us right now. And so I'm not sure exactly how to make them do more of that, but I feel like that's where it starts, right?
I feel
I do think, yeah, no, please, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to respond directly to Sean. I feel like the whole, it sort of goes back to what Parnell was saying about the feeling of having to edit themselves I feel like you mentioned RuPaul's Drag Race, and RuPaul's Drag Race is like a very edited, polished version, specific insight into gay culture. And, we see our character Ruby sort of be like, aha, here, I can connect with you with this. And I do feel like there's a significant portion of the queer community who is like, oh, well, I shouldn't feel like I have to edit myself. Why would I, water myself down? But it's sort of like there is a disconnect where does the dominant culture or other cultures or whoever it is that could maybe evict us if they have the power at the moment, do they know what it is that this unedited version is? They may not be aware of it, and we have to have that conversation. They may only have this edited version that got exported by luck. They may need to have that contact of people who are willing to put themselves forward to share what it is the needs of said community the unedited version is. And Bill, what were you going to say? Sorry if I totally just...
Well, no, I was just going to speak a little bit about Glendale because with Antaeus located in Glendale, I've had an opportunity
That's where I'm headed next.
To work with the city council, the mayors, and the community here. And when you talk about what can a community do, I think Glendale is doing a great job of looking to make the city a better place. It's a very hands-on, it's like a small city, it is a small city, but it's like a small town separate from Los Angeles, and it's a very unique place. We've been very happy to be in Glendale, and from the beginning have found that they are very excited about the potential of arts organizations within the city, with different communities, with the Armenian community, with the Black community, the Hispanic community, they are the gay community, obviously with glendaleOUT, and the business community. So we're thrilled to be a part of Glendale, and just think that they have a very hands-on, eager and open quality, and I don't know that you find that in every city. So I'm more optimistic than Sean. I think I'm a little more optimistic than that, but I feel that Glendale is doing a great job moving the ball forward.
Antaeus Theater Company has quite a few queer artists that make it up. I mean, I've had quite a few of them be my professors at USC when I was studying acting myself. I think of Gigi Birmingham or Tonia Betamarco, and now I'm here with you, Bill, and so it's like this sort of collaboration we have here. It's like I can't wait to sort of see where Antaeus goes next, and they sort of has a company claimed their sort of space, and now they can really position themselves to sort of one of Antaeus's missions, is like this sort of historical vibe, telling stories that from throughout history and throughout and now you have the Playwrights Lab, which is like telling stories in real time. And I love the thing about Brunch Interrupted, is it's set in modern time, but it is a classic because it is talking about it's mentioning it is pointing to this gigantic part of queer history with the AIDS crisis, and then sort of where it's sort of like the epilogue of what a lot of stories that have been told before. This is like what came next. So this is where we are at now, and so and then now Sean just told me that a Gold Coast bar, which had to close, may now be coming back with new ownership, possibly.
Possibly, word on the street basically is that there may be another legacy bar that may be moving to that space. I don't want to say the name just in case it's not really happening.
Yeah. So let's talk about the how important it is to have physical space versus, say, representative space. I mean, we're in a representative space right now, a digital one, where queer people coming together and talking about a queer story. But I guess we are sort of representing the physical space of Antaeus. But so the Gold Coast bar was a physical place that was very important to the people that made it up, and clearly it is to Joe. And so he sort of feels like a little bit attacked. Can you sort of share a little bit about Sean? I think directly to you, sort of your experience in and how you feel about that. Is physical space important, or can we find, what does that mean exactly?
I think that, queer physical spaces were created literally to save us, right? Literally to save our lives. And although, certainly in urban centers, it's a lot easier to be gay these days. But it's still, I think our community trauma, our generational trauma is such that we need those physical spaces still. I love the fact that the digital landscape and the internet and everything has made it easier. And I think that's also saved people's lives. People that thought that they were the only gay in the village and now they can talk to literally millions of other people. I think that's, I really do think that saved lives. But I also think that, I know this is going to sound ridiculous, I think that being able to go to a gay bar and have a couple drinks with your people also saves lives. I think it's not just a fortress, it's also an incubator, it's also a nest, a home. And so I just read this thing the other day. I think there's less than 30 lesbian bars in the entire country right now. And that's a travesty. And, gay bars disappearing as well, because, and this isn't a blame game, but it's easy, like I said, it's easier to be gay in urban centers now, right? So there's a little bit less need for gay specific spaces. Like in Los Angeles, I hold my husband's hand everywhere we go, so they tend to sort of fade away. But I think if we are serious about honoring the generation that is still here, that survived, it's our job to kind of keep those spaces alive. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, but I just think
it's sort of weirded it kind of
right,
weird.
Right.
I was asking 5 at once.
Yeah, human contact is the thing, right? We spent a year not touching each other. And we found out how crucial human contact is. So literally just if only for the reason that you can be in the same room and touch somebody else in a way that maybe you couldn't do it on the street. I think the physical spaces is important.
Absolutely. And I know we touched on it in conversation the other day, that importance of gay spaces, specifically for us, as opposed to gay night at a predominantly straight club. It's we need to have spaces where it's just us, where we can really let our hair down and be as fabulous as we want to be, or as butch as we want to be, or whatever the case, just be our legitimate selves without worrying about, okay, I got to butch it up so that, I don't get clocked by the straight guys, and feel threatened. I remember moving to Los Angeles and going to the Catch One for the very first time. And, I was just like, I've never seen so many in one place, and how important that is for young gay people to walk into a club and realize I'm not the only one, or I'm not just one of a few, but everybody in this space is in my same tribe or my same collective. And that if I see a guy that I think is cute, I can actually go look at him or go actually talk to him without having to okay, how can I do this as surreptitiously as possible? I could just blatantly go, I'm like, hey, hi, and realizing that those who came before us, who really paid the price, weren't able to have that luxury. I mean, they could get arrested just for touching someone of the same sex in a bar and a cop saw them. The entrapment that used to go on in the bathrooms at clubs or parks or whatever. Oh, thank you, Johnny. I would love to have a podcast. Sponsors, call me.
You can see why it's easier to fall in love with Parnell.
Oh, thank you, Bill. But it's the whole thing of really learning that history. And I'm fortunate that in my journey as a gay rights activists, Black civil rights activists, that I've gotten to meet so many people who were instrumental in the founding of the Mattachine Society and whatever. At Celebration Theater, I've met so many people, and I'm just going, oh God, I met Morris Kite. We have to have a conversation, and it's just this is just why I know there are a lot of Black gay people who have Morris Kite, who is that? Not understanding, because we always kind of think of things as separate. Oh, gay means white. It's like, no, no. Gay covers us all. And John, we talked the other day about how going into the Abbey and the Abbey is so straight now.
Yes.
And on one hand, it's kind of glad that we can have this thing where everybody gets to go and party at the same time. But on the other hand, it's the kind of thing was like, I just want a place where it's just the boys, where we can be as raunchy as we want to be, without having to worry about, women and children are here, cover it up. Yeah, calm it down, boys, where we can have that. Hi, Alice. Am I needing to shut up soon? Okay. So that is that thing of having those spaces where I think that women need to have women only spaces. People of color need to have our individual little spaces where Latinos can get together, Asians can get together, Black folks can get together, and just have space where we can just really be ourselves and not have to edit our reactions to the world around us to be like, I can vent this stuff that if I say it out there may get me in trouble or may cause an issue, but you know what I'm talking about. So there's a lot of stuff that happens that I don't have to explain to another Black man what I just experienced, because they're like, been there. Every Black man I know gets nervous about the cops coming up, even if you're doing everything right. So is this the day that I'm the one that they decide to fuck with? And then letting that go when they drive past. Because it has been such a thing of just being messed with just because I'm bored that day or I need to meet my quota of harassing Black and brown men in this country. That's a reality.
And adding more spaces doesn't take away spaces from other people.
Exactly. We can always have those. This is why I think it's so important that our kids today have their gay straight alliances in high schools. And I think maybe some junior highs, I don't know.
In Glendale, we have them in elementary schools as well as middle schools and high schools.
When I grew up, that was called
That's a different world than I was in. Yeah.
But yeah, well, looking at the time, Alice, should we take some questions?
I think we do have some questions, and anyone else with questions, feel free to add them. Part of why I popped on was that I saw that our other cast member, Angie Byrd, had raised her hand. So Angie, I don't know if you want to come on audio or come on screen. I'll start with audio, but then let me know if you want to come on for video. Let's see.
Join us.
We want to see your face, Anne.
I would love to.
You want your video? Let me put you on for video. Give me one second.
Sure.
Okay.
She's a joy to work with. Shout out.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gents, it's Ruby.
Yay, Ruby.
By the way, Ruby's my grandmother's name. Just so.
Well, I should say ladies, gents, and all those in between.
Angie.
I hear you all wanting your safe spaces, and I can think of nothing I would rather not do than join a bunch of old white ladies in a club. So I don't know exactly how to relate to that, but I think I get it.
I thought you were going to say you didn't want safety in the theater, but because we want risk in the theater. We want people to feel safe when they're
there's that
too.
But
we want risk to be taken. So
one of the joys of my life has been that the theater really is more open than other aspects of society. So
the theater was my first safe space.
Yes.
For a lot of us, I think, the High School Musical or whatever it was was a place for a lot of us.
Right. You can come out to your friends and like, oh, honey, I don't care. It's like,
I'm so sorry that Michael Shepperd isn't here. Seriously. Yeah. I mean, that's a controversy we can't get into, I guess, but I feel bad about all that.
Yeah, I think we set up at the top. It's unfortunate, but it wasn't part of what was going on with our project. So
gotcha.
Yeah, but we've got a couple of audience.
But in a way, it is, isn't it?
Sorry, I missed what you said, Angie.
I said, in a way, it is what's part of the project. I mean, it's part of the discussion, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky for us to say too much about it, except that, you know, I know that Bill, we were talking earlier about just saying that the work on this project was much appreciated. I don't know if you want to say anything there, Bill.
Well, sure. I mean, I think it's very obvious that Michael did a great job with this piece. This was all recorded. You know, we recorded. For people who don't know, we sent microphone kits to everyone's homes so people could record safely. So I've never met Parnell in real life, which is very odd. So we recorded individually at our own homes, and then Jeff Gardner, our sound designer, put it all together to make it sound like we are in the same spaces. So all of that work was done prior to any of the revelations about what happened at Celebration Theater, and prior to the investigation that Celebration and their lawyers undertook. So we were done with this project before that all came to light. And
whatever part of the conversation, if it is about safe spaces, who was safe? And Michael felt safe. The kid thought he didn't feel safe. Do you know what I'm saying? It's really a complicated issue. That behavior is how much is safe behavior in what we've claimed as a space.
They, you know, maybe standards have changed, or maybe people are more comfortable speaking out now than so maybe people are more comfortable speaking out too about things that they're not comfortable with. As I said, there was an investigation that
I know, and I'm sure legally it's all very complicated. But I'm just saying that when I came up in the theater, if some guy slapped you on the ass, it was funny. Now it's like actionable. I don't know. Things have changed. I'm old.
On that note,
next question.
Let me jump in with a couple of our audience questions.
I figured we need to throw a bomb into this.
So we have someone who doesn't include their name, but says the play is important because it addresses the often unknown queer history and legacy within Los Angeles. And what are some of the ways that these stories can uplift the notion that the queer community in LA doesn't only consist of white cisgender men? Like, how can we lift up BIPOC and other kinds of queer stories through this kind of work? And I guess that's for anyone who's got a thought about how to answer that.
I think it is about encouraging those people to tell their stories and helping us, people who have theaters, find them. I think we're all very interested in hearing different perspectives. I think what Sean did so brilliantly is choose a story that not only was about the gay experience, but was also about the gay Black experience. And we just want more. I think we want to hear more stories from more people so that all voices are there. I mean, I just, as a viewer or a listener in this case, I'm interested to learn about communities and the situations and people that I don't know about as well. So I think we're all hungry for it.
At glendaleOUT, we actually go out into the world and find those people with stories. And I have a whole video series that I've produced myself with glendaleOUT, where I interview queer members of the Glendale community and get their stories and tie it into the greater narrative that is Glendale. There's you could go onto glendaleOUT's YouTube page. I've made lots of, different couples, different relationships, people of different ages. I've interviewed high school students who are at the forefront of their Pride Club at the local La Crescenta High School here in Glendale. I've interviewed people who've lived in Glendale for more than 45 years and been in a gay relationship. I've been in people who met at an elementary school at 6 years old here in Glendale and now into their, they're grown up now and they've been together for quite a long time. They're still together. It's a great romantic story you should check out. So if you have a story and you live in Glendale, please reach out to, glendaleOUT@gmail.com. We would love to hear your story and give you a platform to get your queer story out there. And who knows, maybe you'll get connected to a theater company and get your play written.
I think what is happening now that as we have more and more writers that are not straight white men writing stories and being in decision-making positions, that we're starting to hear more and more diverse stories. I mean, even with the movie with Love Simon going into the series Love Victor, first we had the white gay male experience, now we have the Latino gay male experience, still very male. And then even, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it, but it's not giving away anything, with even touching on the Muslim gay male experience, and how those things are, yes, these are all gay men, but culturally there are different reactions to these sons coming out and how that is handled. I think they did a great job of it. For anybody who has not watched the Pride series on Netflix, I think it is, or Hulu, I can't remember, it might be on Hulu. Watch it, the Pride series. I thought they did such a great job at being inclusive of men, women, trans, people of color. I was like, are there some colored people on this board? Because I sure saw a lot of black faces up in here. And that was great for us all to look at and see how many different colors of the rainbow came into this fight for what we now enjoy today, that we can all look at that and go like, okay, we all had a part to play. That helps uplift that it's not just the white gay male experience that makes up the LGBTQIAP and growing letters community.
I think just this from a procedural standpoint, like the white male gatekeepers that, are gatekeepers, whether we like it or not, need to hold the gate open, right? Like it is in whatever way, but also more BIPOC people of color need to be in like managerial, executive, showrunner positions. So that means, that should be our sole focus right now, I think.
We have another audience question, and this one is for Sean. And it said, when writing this, I imagine you had to do a lot of self-reflection to get into the head of your white character. What was the most impactful reality or truth you had to confront through the writing process?
That I am a completely flawed ally. And that is something that I knew intellectually, and then when I was writing this, had to lean into. And it's the thing that I hate to sound like I want an award or a pat on the back or anything like that, but it really is what we should be doing. We shouldn't be talking, we should be listening, we should be self-examining, we should be taking our marching orders. And so that was minding that in myself and putting it on the page, knowing that I would have to talk about this play and say exactly this, was probably the toughest part. And then also handing it to people like Parnell and being ready. And literally, I think I told you in an email, Parnell, like, I don't want you to sugarcoat it. Like, if I am off base, I need to know that now. And so just opening myself up to that potential, like he could have come back and been like, this is garbage. You know what I mean? And I was like ready for it. So yeah, I think that was the toughest part.
And the play has an uncomfortable nature to it. It ends a little unresolved. Everything is not just fine and dandy. And I think, and with this relationship, and I think it's good. I know that acting the part, I felt very off kilter at the end. And I think that's what we want to feel, is that these tough questions have been asked in a way that have not been asked in this relationship before. And things will likely get better once they can really delve into it and look at it.
To speak from, an activism standpoint, I'm a big proponent of the fact that, and this speaks to what Sean just said, that sometimes we have to have conversations poorly before we can have them, move them forward. Sometimes our own perfectionism and having to represent some sort of identity that we have, or feel like we have to be the most perfect version of ourselves before we can be an activist, before we can start conversations, that can sometimes get in the way of, if everyone's just waiting to be the perfect person, nobody might be the one to step forward. You know, sometimes it takes somebody to do the thing, you know, not the best way to start that conversation before it gets to the place that like, you know, that it needs to get to.
I think part 2 needs to be going to Lakeisha's house, seeing what.
I mean, I think that's, you know what? Name a play with Black lesbians in it. I can't. Like that, it should be the next play, right?
The Color Purple about the club.
Right. Well, that's right. The Color Purple. What am I
Rent
thinking?
has interracial
half
couple.
of Rent.
Okay. Oh, half a rent, yeah.
So there's 2.
And we're looking to do a 3rd season of Zip Code Plays. So
Yeah, Alice, if I could talk
Possibilities
about
exist.
the Zip Code Plays and a little bit about how people can participate in Pride, that would be something I'd like to do before we end our little
Yeah, let me
broadcast.
I just had one last thing because I saw that we got a lot of questions and comments in the Q&A about people really loving Ruby's character. And so just maybe a little bit of a question for Angie Byrd, maybe also a little bit of a question for Sean about having a character who maybe starts off somewhat in the wrong and kind of grows, but in a way that is not at all unlikable, you know, someone that I think audiences can maybe relate to and that people just enjoy. So maybe, I don't know if either of you wants to say anything about that, but we got a lot of pro Ruby commentary. So I want
to hear from Angie Byrd. I've been talking all night.
Well, it's one of the things that really appealed to me about this was that it is so easy to demonize this woman, and Sean has made her open to stuff she just doesn't know about. So she appealed to me a lot. So
you know, black and white villains are boring, and I think the Karen phenomenon is played out. And I think that we're at a place now where we can have nuance, and not that this play is like such a nuanced play, let's be honest, but I think that not painting her in, you know, black and white terms is I guess, well, from the comments, I guess it was the way, you know, the way to go, because people, you know, attached themselves to her and enjoyed her.
And with that, unless there are any last minute questions or comments, then I'll hand it over to you, Spencer, and then I can, as you're wrapping up, I think we'll also put our links in the chat so that everyone can access all of the Zip Code Plays. And I will say one last thank you to all of our sponsors, including Reba and Geoffrey Thomas, who sponsored this play, and the Michael J. Connell Foundation, who have very generously sponsored all of the Zip Code Play series. So we're very grateful for them, and we're grateful to everyone for being here. And then I know Spencer has some things to share too.
Well,
is there some way for us to know who was here?
We can we know who's logged on through Zoom. We also have some people watching on YouTube, so we don't know who they are, but
Okay.
But let's see, I can tell you we've got playwright Elizabeth Wong watching us tonight, who wrote one of our other Zip Code plays.
Monterey Park, it's fantastic. I love that one.
Yeah. Evie DiCiaccio, who's a member of our board, several of our audience members, and then there are names that I don't know who I imagine are part of the Out Glendale community.
Well, hello.
Bill, I just saw a question that said, will there be a 91205 zip code play in the future?
It's a great question.
Glendale. Yes, I'm very eager to explore everything that is Glendale. So yes, I believe there will be.
And I wanted to, if you enjoyed the zip code play and you would like to see season 1 or the rest of season 2, they're available at antaeus.org. They're all free, so you can just show up and click your go button and listen to any of the other ones. They feature other cities in Los Angeles County, like Monterey Park, Echo Park, and they're all incredible, and they all have great, very academic discussions afterwards as well. They're from diverse playwrights from those, and I'll touch on historical things as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how you can, beyond this event, celebrate Jewel City Pride 2021. So I might have mentioned before, we have a hashtag queering Glendale. And what we want to do is we want to envelop Glendale in a visual sea of queer. throughout the month of June, we were asking people to post, attach, hang, display tokens of pride colors around town, everywhere and anywhere. That could be as simple as, a flag on your car, an antenna, hanging something in the window of your apartment, something tied to your mailbox. If you want to, take a little like screen grab of this, I'm sure we would all be happy with that. And you could say, hey, just saw the zip code play for West Hollywood. I love Sean Abley's work. Like Ruby's the best. Hashtag Ruby. Hashtag Queering Glendale. You can support us that way. You can hashtag Jewel City Pride is another thing. Show your pride colors. We have other events with other institutions around town. We do pop-ups on the weekends at the Glendale Galleria. We also have a pride ball. If you want to have your experience, sort of like going to a queer in-person event, we're going to be doing that at Dave's Dive Bar, a dive bar just like the Gold Coast Bar here on Broadway. And you'll be seeing future messaging about that and all of glendaleOUT's stuff. Just it's a one-stop shop. Go to glendaleOUT.org. You can see all the different advocacy things that we're doing, all the different efforts that we're supporting, like the Black Lives Matter movement, like the Armenia Strong movement, all the different communities that make up Glendale and make us so amazing and strong. And you can see your sort of calendar of different things going on. Unfortunately today, since it's 17th, today's the last day to catch the Alex Theater has a cool fabric tied rainbow on the gates and a cool quote from an Armenian queer artist. We've had things earlier with yesterday we just did a thing with the Glendale Library. It's like a sort of like a panel of different queer people in our community sharing their stories. You can go and see that on the library website. Check that out. It's like 80s themed, which is super cute. So at glendaleOUT is our Instagram, and it's also glendaleOUT at on Facebook. It's at Antaeus, right? At Antaeus Theater Company for both Facebook and Instagram. So you can check out all of Antaeus's other stuff that's going on with the theater. I love Antaeus, I didn't mention, but I'm also a professional actor, and I've done plays with Antaeus Theater. I've done their Classic Sundays, and I hope to return again. So thank you so much for having me, guys, and I hope you all have a wonderful Jewel City Pride.
Yay! Right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you, guys.
Happy Pride.
Thank you to all the panelists.